I've rubbed everything out very carefully and I've left it to dry for quite a while. So I've now got some, brushes and my trusty old paint tin, but I haven't cleaned it out very well. As you can see, this is what I used, the colours and the palette that I used for doing the other Hansel and Gretel picture, which was on the inside of the house. So I thought I'd leave these because some of these colours might actually be quite useful. I've got some kitchen roll and I've got some water. And I think the first thing I'm going to start with is the gingerbread house itself. So I'm just going to do the background here. And also I'm going to do the sky. So I'm going to work from the sort of furthest away layer, if you like, and work my way forwards. So I'm going to start with the sky, and I'm thinking it might be sunrise, so we're going to have some yellows and blues in there. Let's start over this side and see how we go. And by the way, this little squirrel up the top there, I just think he's adorable. Sometimes things come out really, you know, excitingly. So I'm thinking I was going to do a video on hares next week, rabbity hares, but actually I might do squirrels instead, because I did do some hares a while ago when I was doing a video on I think it's one of the mental health videos I did early in March. So yeah, I think I might do some squirrels instead. I'm just working up a relevant blue here, just to meet the yellow of the early morning sunrise. Well, so early in the morning, not kind of crack of dawn, but that lovely, sometimes that sort of pale blue down to yellow sunrise that you get, the light that you get early in the morning. Okay, so that'll do for that side. I'm going to do over this side as well now. So this is just water, just to prime the paper. And the story is that they've now spent their night in the woods, but they've stumbled across this lovely looking gingerbread house with lots of sweets and candies all over it. So they are desperately hungry and hoping that they can eat something for breakfast. Just keeping an eye on this side as well to make sure it's drying in the way that I want it to. So I'm not going to have quite so much yellow over this side. I'm going to put a bit more blue, just to show where the sun is actually coming from, which is over this side. But of course that golden glow will stretch right across the horizon. Just trying to be careful that I don't make green sky. We want the yellow to be yellow and the blue to be blue. I find the kitchen paper is really helpful just to blot the paintbrush. I use it a lot just to get the right amount of water and the right amount of pigment on my brush. And that little ding ding you can hear is actually me washing my brush or picking up some water. Right. Okay, I'm happy to let that dry. Now I'm going to go in and do this plane of the gingerbread and see how we get on with that. So if you think the light is coming from over here behind the house, so this is going to be quite dark, all of this, so, but I am going to highlight it with the sweets. So these are the candy canes and a sort of twirly sweet, and then some what are these things called, like eclairs or hard-boiled sweets. These are actually pumpkins, and then the light will be hitting the children on this side, so that will be nice because it will be highlighting her face and his back. So I'm going to give this plane of the house just some water. Maisie, my dog's just come in from the garden because it's late May when I'm recording this, but actually this is the first day that we've had where it's been properly feeling like summer. Warm weather, warm sunshine, no wind. So she was sunning herself in the garden and now she's coming to cool off for a bit. Okay, I'm going to mix some brown for the gingerbread. It's going to be quite dark because, like I say, it's going to be in the shade of the house. But we still want it to look like gingerbread. Let's try this colour. The gingerbread is quite pale. You might, if it was lit from the front, you'd probably want to use a lot more ochre yellow in this, because this is looking a bit sort of chocolatey. I might drop some ochre onto that actually, just to let it form its own little puddles. Where I am in my studio, you can probably hear lots of birds in the background twittering away. And I do tend to have my door open in the summer because my studio gets roasty McToasty hot. This is just dropping some ochre onto that. See what happens. And then in the winter, my studio gets absolutely freezing because I'm basically in a little purpose-built house that my husband made me many years ago to work in, and although we did insulate it, it's basically a wooden building, so it doesn't maintain a constant temperature. I like what's happening here, so I'm going to drop a little bit more colour into the other side over here and see what happens. So this is a more of a sort of chocolatey brown. And then just some water to make some interesting marks. I think I'm going to have to put some, I might wait for it to dry, but I think I'm probably going to have to put some dark bluey grey down the bottom here to show the definite areas of shadow. And the roof is made of chocolate buttons. Now don't get me started on chocolate buttons. I love chocolate buttons so much, Cadbury's ones so much, particularly the ones that have got caramel in them. But they're not vegan, so they're not dairy free. I tend to not eat them these days unless I'm feeling very decadent. But the thing that annoys me about chocolate buttons is about 5 years ago they brought out what they say are giant buttons. Now to me, a giant chocolate button would be the size of a dinner plate. But it is not so. They are roughly twice the size of a normal chocolate button, which I think is you know, should be against the description. It's not well described. Should be against, we have a law called the Trace Description Act in the UK, and I think it should be against that, because it very clearly is not giant in my books. But these ones on the top of the roof, they are giant chocolate buttons because they are the size of a dinner plate each, and I think I could quite happily chomp my way through that roof. So this is still wet on this side, so I'm only going to take the water up so far because I don't want it to bleed into what I've already done. I mean, really, I ought to wait for that to dry, but I'm being very impatient today. Just going to go over that, sweetie. And the lady that lives in the house is over here. So let's give this some colour. It's going to be roughly the same tone and temperature as the other building, the other side of the building, because the light is coming from behind. Okay, so I think probably it would be safe for me to, what's that sky looking like? I might leave that for a bit longer, but I think I'm going to do the children's skin next because that is nowhere near any of the other colours that I've laid so far, and I know I'm going to need this to be dry when I paint their clothes and around them as well, so I'll just do their skin. Mixing together a little bit of ochre and a little bit of red, and then I'm going to just tone it down a little bit with some brown, a sort of palish brown, so that it's more like a kind of pale toffee colour. Let's have a look. think I'm going to need a little bit more magenta in that, just to make them... And they're looking a little bit sallow at the moment. We don't want them looking sallow, we want them looking reasonably healthy. Although, according to the story, they are very hungry at home, and that's why the parents decide to get rid of them. There's not enough income for 4 people in the family, so the parents ditch the children. Nice. Okay, now because I've got the light coming from this side, I'm actually going to take a bit of that away, and that's going to be showing a bit of yellow from the sun rising. So the majority of the colour on her face is actually going to be on the left hand side over here. Alrighty, okay, I'm going to leave that to dry for a little while and then carry on. Now for the grass. I've mixed up a little bit of a sort of darkish green. See how that looks. Just letting the water carry the pigment to some extent. So now for the roof and the chocolate buttons. So what I'm thinking is, because the sun's coming from, or the light is coming from over here, I'm going to have it darker at this end and lighter at this end. So I'm going to wet that first. I've just mixed up a colour, so I've got a slight bit of brownie tinge to my water now, so I will have to change it in a minute, I think. I'm going to put some more detail into the light and shade of the chocolate buttons when this first layer has dried. And a little bit of ochre down this end. Sweep it towards that way. And then a little bit of just water, just to give it that splodgy look that I love so much. Then I'm going to do some on the other side, and this is actually just wet on dry paper, because I can then just give it a little bit more control. It's just these edge tiles. Oh, if only tiles were really made out of chocolate buttons, my life would be complete. Okay, that'll do. And then this underhang I'm going to do in a darker, probably, let's see, I might do a sort of darkish reddy brown, I think. So whilst that's drying, I can do the trees. I'm going to mix up a little bit of dark blue and a bit of that brown that I've just used, because these are going to be more or less in shadow. I think I'm going to try and do this bush now with the little deer standing in front of it, and I'm going to do this paler green than the one I've used for the grass. Yeah, I think I'm going to make it quite pale so that I can make the sweets stand out a bit better. So I'm going to go over the whole lot apart from the egg sweets, which there's 1, 2, 3 there, because the white of the egg really needs to be white. So I'm going to go over everything else because that can be a colour. So the hearts are going to be pink, and the there's some humbugs in there, and some sort of smarty type sweets. I mean, these are, I'm going on the sweets we have in the UK. If you're in America or somewhere else in the world, you're likely to have different names for the same sweets or candies. But I'm guessing that you'll kind of recognise them from how I describe them. So these little fried egg ones, you get those in sweet shops in the UK, and you can buy them. They're sort of penny sweets. You buy them by the weight. So when I was a little girl, it used to be by the £1/4 pound or 1/8 of a pound, but these days it's more likely to be grams. So you could get quite a few of those for 50p or however much you wanted to spend. And then you could also get things called flying saucers, which had sherbet inside, and they were made of rice paper. They were really nice. You could get those in the penny sweets as well. Okay, so that's my base colour, and what I'll do is I will let that dry and then fill in a little bit more detail for that. Whilst that's happening, I'm going to take a smaller brush and start looking at the clothes that they're wearing. So if I think back to what my little girl was wearing before, he was wearing a stripy top and jeans, and she, I think, was wearing a purple, pinky purpley dress. I'm going to check that. So this is the picture that I did on YouTube. So he's got actually not a stripy top on, he's got a kind of pale blue top and jeans, and she's got a white t-shirt and then a little pinkish pinafore dress. So I shall keep that nearby so I can reference it. I think I might actually I think I'm going to do the gravel first, so that it's, because that's around them, so I'm just going to put a little bit of water. I'm not going to go everywhere, I'm kind of blobbing it. And I think the gravel ought to be maybe purple, pinky purple. Bluey purple maybe, because it's supposed to be a fun place for children to want to come, isn't it? So whilst that's drying, I'm going to do the windows. I'll take my smaller brush. And again, this is supposed to be a welcoming looking house, otherwise they wouldn't have gone near it. So light on the inside. That's all dry. So I could do the candy canes. I'm going to mix up a bit of magenta. and add just a little touch of red to it. Just going to turn it around so that I can get to those other ones easily. Being very careful not to touch the roof up here because it's still wet, up the top here, still wet. Still a bit wet there, you can see between the two children, so I need to leave that area, and also that bit up the top there, you can see that's still wet. Okay, so let's do under the, in the middle there's a cat, if you can see it on the mat there. So I'm going to do the mat, and then when that's dried I can finish off the little kitty. Not, you know, not finish him off. I'm just going to do that in brown. I think we'll have a black cat, you know, witches have black cats, don't they? Apparently. So I'm just using a very fine brush and just doing little tiny lines to show the roughness of the doormat. And then we need to think about what colour the door is going to be. I think we'll have it as red. I have a red door. So I've got some vermilion. Because it's so warm in here today, it's drying very quickly, so I'm just going to drop some water onto that because I don't want it to dry in some places and then not in others. I'll pick up a bit more of that vermilion on my smallest brush. So I want that to be quite quite a saturated colour. And then I think what I need to do is concentrate on the witch herself, which she's over in the corner here near the water butt, collecting water from the roof. So I'm thinking that this, instead of it being a gutter, well, it is a gutter, but it's collecting rain in a piece of licorice, a licorice gutter. So looking back at my lady in the other picture, here she is. So she's got that sort of spotty green apron on and then a greyish white top. So let's do the spotty green apron first. And I'm also going to use my smallest brush just to get a bit more detail. And then pick up a little bit of bluey grey. And she's got her fluffy slippers on as well. Let's give her a pair of tights, tan tights, and then fluffy slippers. Let's do yellow. And then I also need to do, I should have done her skin first really, but I'm going to do it now. So she is quite tanned, being a lady who works outdoors in her garden quite a bit. And her little hands. And then her hair, so she's got grey hair. And then once that's dried, I'm going to come back and add just a little bit more detail for her. And then of course we've got a little squirrel racing up the tree. So I'm going to use another brush. Let me see if I can find something. I want something a bit bigger than my tiny one. Have I got anything? Let's use this one. There we go. And then it's going to be a red squirrel, so I'm going to use the vermilion and then a bit of yellow to make it orangey, because red squirrels are orange really. I'm not sure why they're not called orange squirrels. Here he is up the top there, just focus on that bit. And my paper's quite bendy now, so probably what I think I will do when I'm leaving it to dry, once it's dried on the surface, I'm going to wedge it underneath some books to make sure that as it's doing its drying process over 24 hours or so, that it does dry out flat. So that will do for our little squirrel. Here he is. Oh, he's so cute. It's like a little fox going up a tree. How dry is that? Reasonably dry. Okay, I think it's because it's still quite damp. I'm going to now leave this for today. Just zoom out a bit so you can see it all. There we go. I'm going to leave this for today and come back to it perhaps later on today or tomorrow when it's properly dried out and I'm not worrying about bleeding into colours. And then we'll finish it and put it next to the other one, this one, and see what you think of it. I'm going to start doing these two little characters, and I'm going to do her little girl's hair to start with. She's got quite blonde hair, so I'll do a palish colour to start with and then fill in a few details, perhaps with pencil. And he's got darker hair, so I'm going to give him some brown. Just picking up some magenta. I don't know if you can hear that bird in the background, that's a wren. Doing lots of twittering. They are very tiny, tiny birds, so they're very difficult to see, but they've got a very, very loud song. Again, because of where the light's going to hit, I need to think about where the light and dark is going to be on her clothing, so I'm probably going to need to put some darker shades down this side of her. Let's do the little boy. He's got this sort of pale blue, and then his blue of his jeans. That's a very similar blue to the background there, so I'm going to change that slightly. Let's give it a different, slightly different tone to it. That's a bit better. That's it. This background is very pinky blue. And then his jeans can be darker still, because I don't want that to be the same colour as his shirt or his jumper, t-shirt. I'll make that darker still. I'm actually filming this the day after what you've already watched, so, and it's quite early in the morning, hence all the twittering in the background, but it's a cooler morning today, so it's quite nice to be in the studio and do a bit of painting. Now, we haven't seen the little girl's legs at all yet, so I can do what I want with them. I think we'll have stripy tights. I think I'm going to go for orange actually, because it then contrasts what's around it. So I'm going to mix up some of the red and some ochre. Making sure I don't line what I've already got, because we don't want it to look like one continuous thing, like a skirt or something. I want it to make it look like it's two different legs. And whilst we've got the orange on the go, I'm going to do the pumpkins. Ooh, that's nice and saturated, that colour. That's very red actually, isn't it? Just let that settle a little bit into the colours that are already drying. Over the other side. Pick a bit more of that colour up. Right, now I think we'll do the around the window frames next. There's still quite a lot to do. Actually, whilst we have got the orange on the go, I'm going to just complete my little squirrel a bit. So, because he's not actually that orange at the moment, I want him a bit oranger. Just not all over, just kind of give him a bit of texture. And I'll be able to pick that up as well when I've got my pencils out. He is cute. He's quite foxy actually, isn't he? As in fox-like. Okay. So, windows. I'm going to pick up some kind of dark bluey grey, which I've mixed from a dark blue and one of my browner colours. And I'm just going to do that area there because that's the inside of the window frame. So it's getting no light from outside and very little light from the lamp inside. And again over here. And that's nice because it just gives you a bit of depth to that, to show you how deep the house is, how deep the bricks are in the house. And the jammy dodger up the top. Don't know if you have jammy dodgers in your country, but in the UK they are biscuits that have, it's like a biscuit sandwich or a cookie sandwich. The top layer has a heart shape cut out of it, and then it's sandwiched jam inside, like raspberry or strawberry jam, or I think you call it jelly in the US. So it squodges out of that heart shape at the top. You can see it, and they're very very yummy. That little chap in the middle there is a diamond shaped sweet. You get them in licorice all sorts, I think. I don't like licorice at all, so it's not something that I would eat, but I think we'll do that in, let's see, let's have it in a blue so that it complements other areas of the palette of the image, but it's all right to do it here because you haven't got any blue nearby. I think they all look quite good. Just brighten it up a little bit with cobalt blue. And then I think let's have a go at doing these sweets that are along here after I've blown my nose. So these are boiled sweets that are wrapped up in those sort of cellophane wrappers, and I think we'll have, let's go for red and yellow stripes. I'll do the yellow first. I might go for a bit of a brighter yellow actually. And then I'm going to do the opposite one in the next one. So top and bottom. Got a bit of grass, green grassy bits coming through there, so I'm just going to smooth that out a little bit. And then the last one, back to top and middle again. So that needs to dry. I think what I might do actually is give them alternate wrapper endings. So I'll do the middle one, I'll do yellow, and then the two end ones we'll do them in the red that we're going to use for the other parts of the humbug stripes. Okay, I'm going to swap brushes back to my slightly bigger brush and do over here, do the water butt and the licorice gutter. So that's going to be pretty dark actually, because licorice is quite usually quite black, isn't it? So let's get some sort of darkish grey browny black. I'm going to put a little bit of red in it as well. I've got a red brown that I think might do the trick. Okay, let's see what this looks like. Ooh, yeah, that is quite black, isn't it? There are so many different sorts of black that you can make. Rather than buying a black paint, if you mix dark blue with red or yellow or some browns that you've got, you make a different tone and a different hue of black that is a bit more dimensional rather than it being flat. You can see elements of the colours that you've put into that, whether that's the red or the yellow, the ochre, the red brown in this case. And then I think down the middle, because I don't know whether you are perhaps a licorice connoisseur, but certainly when I've seen them being sold, sometimes they have a stripe of some sort of flavouring down the middle. So that's what I'm going to attempt to have down the middle of the gutter, just some sort of like vanilla or I don't know, what other flavours can you get? Strawberry, chocolate. Okay, so I need to do the other side of the guttering, which is over here, before I lose all that colour. That'll do. Let that dry and then I'll do that middle bit. Whilst that's drying, I can go down to my little deer and the sweets that are in that bush there. So first of all, I'm going to wet the deer. And mix up a bit of brown that's going to be the right sort of tone, although this is going to be, I'm going to give it kind of spots. That's going to be like a what are they called? Red fallow deer. That's what I was thinking of. Fallow deer have spots, like Bambi. So plenty of pigment over the areas where the colour would be, because they've got white tails and white tummies. And then as that's drying, I'm actually going to drop some water onto it, take some of that colour off. To create the spots, the white spots. I might just pull a little bit of that brown up the leg a bit, like that, just to show. There's a bit of colour there. Okay, so I shall be ready with my clean water on my thin brush on this one. Watching it like a hawk for the moment that I think it's going to be dry enough. It might take a little while. Whilst I'm waiting for that, I'm going to colour in those yellow fried eggs. Let's see if this is good timing. I think it might need to just dry a little bit longer. Although there's a part down here that might be alright. Right, well, whilst that's drying a bit more, I shall do a few more of these sweets. Let's do a green one because I think this calls out for green. Although it might be easier to do this with pencil, come to think of it, some of these. Yeah, I think I'll leave that. I think I'll leave the sweets in the hedge for pencil work. What I can do is a little cat chum, and like I said before, this cat is black, so I'm going to mix a different sort of black this time. I'm going to use the dark blue and some ochre to show a different black depth. So this makes it much more greeny black. Careful around the eyes. And I think he needs to be sitting on a more detailed mat. So I'm just going to put a few more little spiky bits. This is like one of those, I was going to say raffia. It's not raffia. What do you call it? The sort of thing you wipe your muddy boots on. That sort of mat. Front door mat. There we go. And again, I'll use pencil just to give that a few more details. Let's go back and have a look at our deer again. Yeah, I think I'm probably going to need to do this. I just don't think it's quite got enough pigment on it to do the old blob trick. So what I will do is I'll go back in with my with a pen to give those white marks. I think that will probably give us a better result. So up in the top corner over here, we've got the rest of the Jammy Dodger biscuit, cookie, and the little owl. I'll do the Jammy Dodger first, and that the biscuit of that is quite a pale beigey colour. I think the interesting thing about this painting will come when I put the shadows in, and that will really bring it alive. To show which direction the light is coming from. If you want to make quite a dramatic looking picture, then having dramatic lighting is a great idea, because it just instantly does something amazing. What colour should we have the door handle and the letterbox? I might go for dark red actually. There's a little sparrow. Come to eat off the nuts, or the seeds that I've put out for him. Twittering away in the background. They love the seeds I put out for them. Little female. Hello. Now, these along here, I think these are going to be those sort of toffee sweets that have got stripes on. So I'm going to start off with a layer of ochre and then give them some brown stripes as well, darkish stripes. So the sweets should have dried by now, so I shall finish off those with some red, and let's do red and magenta together, a bit of pinkier glow. So that's going to be the edge of the cellophane down here, and also that stripe. I think I'm going to swap brushes. That one's not doing it for me, that one. It's better. So these are a bit like custard, rhubarb and custard sweets. That's what I'm thinking of. I love rhubarb and custard. Right, so I think other than I'm going to do a bit to the roof now, because it's nearly time to start putting together the light element of this. So I'm going to use my big brush, and I'm going to mix up a darker brown. So I'm going to take the brown, the sort of chocolatey brown that I used already, and then just mix some darker blue into it. And just over on the left hand side of each of the chocolate buttons, it needs like a little bit of, just a hint of light and shade. I'm holding my brush really far back down the handle, which I tend to do quite a lot anyway. I think I prefer not to keep a really tight grip on it, just to be quite loose. And then as we're getting closer to the light source, I'm just going to ease off a little bit, put a bit more water in with it. And then I'm going to give the same sort of treatment to the bush of sweets. Down the bottom as well, it's going to be quite dark. And back to our owl. He needs his eyelids and his beak having some attention. So beak first, I think. Let's do him a reddy brown beak. And then just kind of greyish eyelids. So now what I really need to think about is, where are those very dark shadows going to be? So I'm going to take my big brush again for this. I'm going to mix up a shadow colour. So that's going to be my darkest blue that I've got, the sort of midnight blue. And it's sitting in a little bit of the previous black that I made. So there's a little bit of colour in that as well. So that if the sun is coming, or the light source is coming from over in the top over here, then all of this sort of side of things are going to be in a dark shadow. But I don't want to sort of create shadow over everything I've got, because I've got some nice colours going on there. So I'm just going to be kind of... I'm just going to go with what I feel. It's difficult to explain when you first start doing this. Just thinking, right, where is the light? The light's going to be underneath those eaves, as we call them in this country. I don't know if you call them that, but that sort of gable end of the house. It's going to be on the grass. Around the little girl. We don't really want it on the little girl. And this bit of the grass as well. And it's not really a shadow as such, it's just a sort of dark area because the sun is rising. So there's no harsh line over here. And again, maybe just a little bit over this end of that bush. Underneath here. And then on the trees, I'm going to mix it a little bit darker this time. A bit more pigment to it. Because we've already got some pigment, similar pigment on the tree there. So I'm going to do down this side. And down there. And also on the one with the squirrel in it. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave this to dry now and then come back with the pencils in a little while. Before I do any of my pencil work, I'm going to do some white lines up here and around the window frames to look like icing. So I'm not quite sure which pen I'm going to use yet, so I'm going to try this graphic line painter 0.5. It's a Derwent one. I'll try this first. Water-based pigment painter, it's called. Japan nib. Shake well. Depress for 2 seconds and wait. Right, let's give it a go. I have used this before but didn't like it massively. So, I'm going to give it the old 2 seconds depression. Oh, if only depression lasted that long, eh? And then I'm going to... 1, 2. No, that is not working. So I'm going to use a jelly roll, which usually does the trick. Famous last words, eh? Let's see what happens. Yay! So I might need to go over this a few times, because even jelly roll, which are very usually very trustworthy, you need to, because there's pigment underneath, I will need to give it a couple of coats probably. This is a 0.8 I'm using, and I think actually the 1.0 usually gives a better result, but for the moment I can't find it, so it's going to have to be this one. Let's see if you can see that. I'm going to do the same around, just around the window frame, like as if you were doing gingerbread at Christmas and just icing it. It's a bit tricky to see because it's quite quite a bright day. It's cloudy but bright. So I think we're getting a lot of reflection off of the white clouds, which means that trying to see these white lines on the paper is tricky. But when I've completed this one, I'll show you a bit closer and then you might be able to pick it up a bit better. Do some little... The white's not going to pick up particularly well on this because it's quite a pale colour already, but again, if I go over that, once it's dried, go over it again, then hopefully that should begin to show through a bit better. Okay, let's give this a second coat. And then the little dots that I've put underneath, I'm going to colour those in red. Like they're holly berries. Okay, that's looking much better. And then on the door, whilst I've got the pen on the go, I'm also going to give our fallow deer some dots and spots. There we go. And I'm going to leave that to dry and then come back with my colouring pencils. So this is where we're at with the painting part. I'm now going to pick up my pencils, listen to some music and put some details in.
like to hold his hand when he tells you that you are all he wants. And it's midnight, oh, I'm thinking about him. I have got him on my mind, but he doesn't know my name, and I'm running out of time. I wish you felt the same, and I'm acting stupid like every day. Don't know what to do or what I should say, 'cause I have got him on my mind, but he doesn't know my name. I wanna hold his hand, 'cause I can't stop thinking about him. And would he understand if I told him how I feel about him? Oh, 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 oh. I have got him on my mind, but he doesn't know my name, and I'm running out of time. I wish you felt the same, and I'm acting stupid like every day. Don't know what to do or what I should say, 'cause I have got him on my mind, but he doesn't know my name. He doesn't know my name. Oh, I've been running from myself so long. I've been running from my heart. Things have never been the same since you packed your bags and played your cards. Summer felt like autumn with the sun so bright and cold, but snow began to fall and there's a light. Searching courage to get up again in an armful of a
stops pretend. La 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 la, I'm smiling, what is happening? La 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 la. Oh my God, there's my light, dressed every day. His well-known eyes makes me, oh my God, how come I've never felt like this until his kiss, singing, oh my God, oh my God. I've been watching you for years, he said, but I've never realized that you and I would end up here someday. You're the one that's on my mind. La 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 la, I'm shining, what is happening? La 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 la. Oh my God, there's my light, dressed every day. His well-known eyes makes me, oh my God, how come I've never felt like this until his kiss, singing, oh my God, oh my God. Oh my God, oh my God. There's my light, dressed every day. His well-known eyes makes me, oh my God, he's not you, he dares to stay, he do love me. Oh my God, there's my